along the Philippines' eastern seaboard, the northern Sierra Madre Natural Park, including the southern portion of the entire mountain range in the eastern seaboard, it was seen that the super typhoon weakened considerably. This is nature at work, a prime example of how ecosystems can contribute to climate action. And nature as a solution is being demonstrated all over the ASEAN. In Indonesia, for instance, the Raja Ampat Marine Conservation Area, which was recently conferred with the Blue Park Award by the Marine Conservation Institute at the 2022 United Nations Oceans Conference in Lisbon, Portugal, is a group of islands known for its mega-diverse marine life and boasting of 75% of the total coral species in the world. It has also unique mangrove areas and a host of important seagrass beds. It's this ecosystem diversity, all of the coastal and marine habitats combined, that would be most effective in moderating the impacts of strong waves and better deliver protection to coastal communities. But it is not just in facing the worsening impacts of climate change that healthy protected areas can have valuable contributions. Our ASEAN heritage parks also have their own stories to tell on how these protected areas all over the region have contributed to wellness and healing, especially as we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. The opportunity to gather today to share our AHP stories would not have been possible if not for the perseverance and dedication of our host for this conference, the Republic of Indonesia. After some delays due to challenges beyond our control, we are finally here today in one of the most mega-diverse countries in the world to discuss the valuable links between our protected areas and healing. While the COVID-19 pandemic has limited our capabilities for face-to-face connections, it has given us the opportunity to innovate and be creative in finding the means to communicate and to act together to achieve a common objective, to heal nature and to heal ourselves. That is why, as the world charts the path to building a better normal, the ASEAN called for coordinated contributions as an ultimate objective towards a more inclusive and sustainable recovery, emphasizing the importance of promoting nature-based solutions to increase the region's resilience. In November of 2020, the ASEAN leaders adopted the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework, or the regional exit strategy from the COVID-19 health crisis that acknowledges the use of nature-based solutions, referring to actions to conserve, restore, and sustainably manage nature, including biodiversity, as part of the region's road to recovery and in building resilience against future pandemics. As part of our contribution to realizing the objectives of the ACRF, we convened this conference to give everyone a stake and a voice in demonstrating how nature, how biodiversity has and can help us face global challenges such as new and emerging diseases, increasing incidence of climate-related natural disasters, and even world hunger. Our home, the ASEAN region, despite occupying only 3% of the world's total land area, is home to almost a fifth of all known plant and animal species in the world. ASEAN's rich biodiversity, from the diverse species to the ecosystems of forests, wetlands, coasts, and seas, exemplifies the bounty and uniqueness of our region's natural heritage. We find ourselves immersed in this intricate web of life innately, that our cultural heritage and survival would not be possible without it. As the world gets back on its feet from the devastating impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, while facing the looming threats of continued biodiversity loss, the intensifying impacts of the changing climate, and the possibilities of more pandemics, we have come to an understanding of our of the broken relationship we have with nature. The conference theme, Healing Nature and People, emphasizes the value of ASEAN heritage parks and protected and conserved areas as part of our nature-based solution in building a sustainable future for all. The discussions in the next few days have been designed for this purpose, to highlight the strong links that make nature, make biodiversity all the more valuable for all of us, for human health and pandemic resilience. The richness of biodiversity in protected and conserved areas, if effectively managed, may indeed be the game changer that can turn the tide against emerging diseases by acting as buffers to contain pathogens and also as natural gene pools that can be sources and inspiration for primary and adjunct treatments to illnesses. I am confident that in this conference, we will be able to hear about strategies that can highlight the complementation of innovative science and traditional knowledge. In these discussions, we will also be able to listen to how full and effective participation of a diversity of partners, such as local communities, women, academe, and field practitioners, as well as the youth, is given much emphasis in effective PA management. Recognizing the vital role of the youth in helping us amplify our call for biodiversity conservation, we are currently working with 20 talented young ASEAN storytellers who are sharing with us new perspectives in biodiversity as told through the lens of the ASEAN Heritage Parks. We are pleased to be likewise joined by representatives from valuable stakeholder groups from all over ASEAN, key sectors such as business, finance, infrastructure, and health, among others, that form part of the bigger sustainability picture. Now, as the global community sets out to finalize the new biodiversity agenda in COP15, the ASEAN as a region brings with it the hope of an ambitious yet realistic framework that we can use to guide our ways and measure our progress. This will also come in timely as the ASEAN High-Level Task Force buckles up to work on the region's post-2025 vision. So I invite you all to let this platform, the AHP7, be our opportunity to express our expectations and contributions towards global and regional commitments that will take into account our priorities for AHPs and protected areas in the ASEAN. At this juncture, let me emphasize that the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, as the region's response to biodiversity loss, stands ready to remain as a reliable partner in supporting ASEAN's resolve to meet global and regional biodiversity targets. I would also like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to our AHP allies, the European Union, the federal government of Germany, through the KfW and GIZ, the government of Japan, through the Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund, and the Metro Pacific Investments Corporation, our newest partner from the private sector. Finally, I would like to thank everyone here for being instrumental in promoting and conserving the region's rich and colorful natural and cultural heritage through the ASEAN Heritage Parks Program, and I wish you all a meaningful AHP conference. Salamat pagi.
Thank you, Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim, for your speech. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving forward to the next remarks. We would like to invite His Excellency Igor Driesmans from European Union Ambassador to ASEAN to deliver his remarks.
I looked a bit younger back then. Minister, Vice Minister for Environment and Forestry, Dr. Alu Dohong, Executive Director of the ACB, Dr. Teresa, His Highness Yang Amat Mulia, government officials, representative of ASEAN countries, partners, Japan, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Conserving ASEAN's rich biodiversity through protected areas like the ASEAN Heritage Parks is vital to the region's economic and social future. It is also key to winning the global fight against biodiversity loss and environmental degradation. That is why the EU is happy to support this conference through the Biodiversity Conservation and Management of Protected Areas project, the so-called BCAMP. This year's conference, under the theme Healing Nature and People, the role of AHPs in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery, resonates with the EU's and ASEAN's shared vision that protecting and restoring biodiversity is key to improve livelihoods, better resilience, and also to prevent the emergence and spread, as you have said, of infectious diseases. The EU's biodiversity strategy for 2030 aims to put Europe's biodiversity on a path to recovery by 2030, with benefits for people, for the climate, and for the planet. Over the last 25 years, we've built the largest coordinated network of protected areas in the world, which is one of, I dare say, the outstanding EU achievements. Known as Natura 2020, the network stretches across all of the EU member states and currently covers over 18% of the EU's land area and more than 6% of its sea territories. The Natura 2000 biogeographical process encourages cooperation and makes sure that protection measures can be tailored to suit specific regional needs. The EU's ambition is to dedicate 7.5% of our 2021 to 2027 budget to biodiversity as of 2024 and 10% as of 2026 and 27. Conserving and restoring biodiversity is also one of the top priorities of the EU's international cooperation agenda. In September 2021, the European Commission pledged to double its international funding for biodiversity, in particular for the most vulnerable countries, in the 2021-27 period. The largest share of the EU investment in biodiversity is used to support protected areas. It includes projects to strengthen local capacities, to maintain and benefit from protected areas, to promote income-generating activities in the protected areas and their buffer zones, and to support scientific monitoring. As part of this effort, the EU has been supporting the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity since its establishment. We also finance key regional projects, including the BCAMP project I mentioned, forest law enforcement, governance and trade, and sustainable use of peatland and haze mitigation in ASEAN. ASEAN heritage parks can play a significant role in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery. BCAMP provides significant support for the evaluation of nominated sites and also for enhancing their management and for building financial sustainability. To date, if I'm not mistaken, there are 51 AHPs. 15 of the 19 nominated sites that were supported by BCAMP have been declared as AHP in the ASEAN member states. Endo Rompin Johor National Park in Malaysia, if I pronounced that well, a BCAMP pilot site was declared as the 51st in July 2022. There is no doubt that these are positive developments, but we cannot rest on these achievements now, because the pace of biodiversity loss remains dramatic. More, larger and better connected protected areas are needed. We also need to further improve the way these protected areas are managed. So I would like to encourage AHP managers, the committee members, and the representative of the ministries of ASEAN member states to cooperate closely, to keep up the positive momentum, and to make this very conference a success. Also, I dare say, in view of the upcoming COP15, where the EU already agreed on a strong position in support of an ambitious, comprehensive and transformative post-2020 global biodiversity framework. And with that, I would just like to wish you a very productive and successful conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, His Excellency's Ambassador, Mr. Igor Driesmans. Ladies and gentlemen, next we will listen Her Excellency Ina Ruth Louise Lepel, German Ambassador to ASEAN, to deliver her remarks through a video. Let's take a look.
Dato Lim Jokoy, Secretary General of ASEAN, Dr. Theresa Mundita Lim, Executive Director, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, Your Excellency Igor Driesmans, European Union Ambassador to ASEAN, distinguished officials from the Government of the Republic of Indonesia, distinguished representatives from the ASEAN Heritage Parks Management, esteemed guests and partners, good day to you all. On behalf of the ASEAN-Germany cooperation, allow me to express our congratulations to the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity and to the Directorate of Biodiversity Conservation of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia for the successful convening of the 7th ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference with the theme Healing Nature and People, the role of ASEAN Heritage Parks in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery. As a long-standing partner of ASEAN, Germany is proud to be working alongside our Southeast Asian counterparts in developing joint solutions for the conservation and mainstreaming of biodiversity in the region. We recognize the immense value of the rich wildlife and lush ecosystems of ASEAN countries, not only for the local and national economy, but also for the culture and identity of the people. And as aptly expressed by the conference theme, biodiversity plays a crucial role in the recovery from and prevention of future pandemics. The federal government of Germany is honored to contribute to the conservation of ASEAN biodiversity, which is among the richest and most exceptional in the world. In the United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York, Germany has sent a strong signal ahead of the COP15, pledging 1.5 billion euros per year for international biodiversity conservation. With this, Germany is doubling its current commitments for the conservation, sustainable use and restoration of biodiversity. We are grateful to have found in ASEAN and the ACB strong partners for the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. Since 2010, jointly with ACB, the German government, with the help of GIZ and KfW, has been implementing projects that support the ASEAN member states in developing strategies that strengthen biodiversity conservation. Over the years, our joint projects have contributed to remarkable impacts on the ground. The support for the enhancement of the effective management of the ASEAN Heritage Parks is particularly relevant as we celebrate the healing and nurturing role of these protected areas with this conference today. We are confident that through the 7 ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference, we can support the hard work of the more than 50 ASEAN Heritage Park managers. The highly anticipated finalization of the new and ambitious targets for the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework will emphasize the crucial role protected areas play in maintaining a livable planet. The framework can further inspire our work in enhancing the management of ASEAN Heritage Parks and other types of protected areas as part of the solution to preventing pandemics and ensuring healing and recovery. In closing, allow me to reiterate the strong and steadfast commitment of the Federal Republic of Germany to support the ASEAN region in the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of its wealth of natural resources. We firmly believe that we can be successful in realizing this endeavor with the help of the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. Once again, Our heartfelt congratulations to each and every one of you. Thank you, and I wish you a productive conference ahead.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency Ina Ruth Louise Lepel, for your remarks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite the Honorable Datu Lim Jok Hoi, Secretary General ASEAN, to deliver his remarks through this video. Let's watch this video.
Her Excellency Dr. Siti Nabaya Bakar, Minister of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, His Excellency Igor Drisman, Ambassador of the European Union to ASEAN, Dr. Teresa Lim, Executive Director of the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased to address the 7th ASEAN Heritage Park Conference today, particularly as we strengthen our efforts to enhance biodiversity conservation, prevent future pandemic and zoonotic diseases, as well as ensure a more resilient ASEAN. I commend the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia for hosting this timely conference, as well as the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, the European Union, and Germany for their support towards this important endeavor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN is home to an abundant biodiversity landscape with at least 60% of the world's tropical peatlands, 42% of mangrove, and 15% of tropical forests. The regions also boast a third of the world's coastal and marine habitats, which provide various forms of ecosystem services. In this regards, the protection and management of these natural assets are critical to enable sustainable livelihood as well as ensure the region's future development. Indeed, COVID-19 was a stark reminder of how biodiversity loss and ecosystem degradation has made protected area more vulnerable to emerging and re-emerging zoonotic diseases, which in turn pose significant threat to human health. As such, the implementation of the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework emphasized the importance of a cross-sectoral, cross-pillar approach that addresses this issue, as well as ensure that ASEAN emerges stronger and more resilient from the pandemic. In addressing these challenges, ASEAN has been successful in shaping a common policy framework for sustainability and resilience by integrating diverse perspectives to achieve the ASEAN Vision 2025 and beyond. Together with our partners, we are gradually taking steps towards transformative actions in natural resources management, as well as nature-based solutions for sustainable development. Meanwhile, in the global arena, ASEAN has articulated and reiterated its commitment to the Convention on Biological Diversity in the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework by intensifying regional efforts on protected areas. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the ASEAN Heritage Parks program is a key part of our efforts to enhance biodiversity conservation in the region and covers forests, marine, and transboundary protected area. I'm pleased to note that since its inception in 1984, we have received continuous support to expand and improve the milestones program. As a result, 51 AHPs have been designated, and the AHP is now a privileged title for any park or protected area in ASEAN, as it demonstrates the strong commitment to protecting and preserving natural heritage, as well as possible efforts to slow down the rate of biodiversity loss. I hope that the AHP program will continue to be strengthened and further offers a platform that can accommodate a strong link and harmonization between the natural and human environments. I also hope that the discussion and recommendation that resulted from this conference will serve as valuable inputs that further promotes and incentivize the adoption of a nature-based solution in ASEAN amongst various stakeholders at the local, national, and regional level. I wish the conference every success. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, His Excellencies Dato Lim Jok Hoi. Moving forward to the next agenda, we would like to invite the Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia to deliver his welcoming remarks and to officially open the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Alu Dohong.
I'm a bit handsome in the picture compared to the real one. His Excellency Igor Drismans, European Union Ambassador to ASEAN, Dr. Teresia Mudita Lim, Executive Director of ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, His Highness Yang Amat Mulia Pangeran Muda Omar Ali Ibni Duli, Yang Teramat Mulia Paduka Sri Pangeran Perdana Wasir Sahibul Himah Wal Wagar Pangeran Muda Muhammad Bolkiah, Missions of Japan to ASEAN, Mr. Yoshiaki Imada, Her Excellency Ina Lepo, Germany Ambassador to ASEAN, who attending this online, and also His Excellency Dato Lim Jok Hoi, Secretary General ASEAN, Asian countries ambassadors, head of delegation of 7th AHP's conference, representative from line ministers, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, and participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Very good morning to all of you. First of all, before I deliver this opening speech, please allow me to convey apology from Her Excellency Minister Siti Nurbaya Bakar. She unable to join us this morning because due to other important meeting, and she convey a warm regard to all of you, and she asked me to deliver an opening speech on her behalf in this very important occasion. First of all, let us pray together to the Almighty God for all the blessings given to the present today at the special event of the 7th ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference hosted by Indonesian government and the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Indonesia, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. It is my pleasure to welcome you at the 7th ASEAN Heritage Park Conference in Bogor City with rainy season along the year. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, guests, ladies and gentlemen, the ASEAN Heritage Parks Program is a FEED program to raise awareness of the importance of managing the region's biodiversity-rich areas effectively and to promote greater cooperation among the ASEAN member states in conserving and managing protected areas. AHP's conference is held every 3 years with the aim to further strengthen the networks of AHPs in the Asian region and to enhance knowledge sharing and to improve the AHP's network capacity among AHP managers, AHP program committee members, and members of the Asian Working Group on Nature Conservation and Biodiversity, as well as other selected stakeholders and partners. After being delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Indonesia is pleased to hosting the 7th ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference in support of the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration and the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework. The conference theme, Healing Nature and People, the roles of AHPs in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery, explicitly contains a hope that through the conference, we could expand the roles of AHPs in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery. We aim to reach it through enhanced knowledge and skills on planning and implementing ecosystem management, restoration strategies, and building resilience. This theme is also in line with the spirit of the G20 Indonesia presidency to recover together, recover stronger. The pandemic has taught us many things. We should empower ourselves to keep going, grow, and become more resilient. We have to be more creative and keep moving advance towards an ideal of a just and prosperous community. Our effort will be stored in the history of the nation that all these challenges we can go through to form a higher civilization. It is also a great lesson for the future generations who will be working after hours to overcome challenges that should put their focus on the power of innovation and the courage to take risks. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Forest cover in Indonesia, approximately 95 million hectares, or about 51% of the total land area of 187 million hectares. The size of Indonesia forest cover is certainly a carbon reservoir that acts as a main capital in environmental protection and climate. Currently, there are 568 protected areas, including 55 national parks in Indonesia, spread over from Sabang in Aceh province toward Merauke in Papua province. It's representing coral reef ecosystem in marine to the alpine forest above 3,000 meters from sea level. Some of these received international recognition, such as World Heritage Site, we have 7 units, and Biosphere Reserve, we have 64 units, and Ramsar Site or Wetland Site, we have 7 units, Asian Heritage Park, we have 7 units, and Global Geopark, we have 4 units. These recognitions are the few of evidence of the importance of forests and marine areas of Indonesia biodiversity for regional and international interests. Indonesian government has been doing enormous efforts to address the challenges in conserving the Earth's lungs. However, for the time being, we need a reasonable hope, great motivation, sharp vision, a strong partnership, and willingness to create a successful and strategic conservation effort as a global movement. We understand that conservation will only work and successful if communities around the world are able to halt and reverse species and ecosystem declining trend. Hence, to make it happen, we urgently need a systematic transformation. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, guests, ladies and gentlemen, to implement this movement, the government of Indonesia will pay serious commitment and will collaborate with main partners around the globe to achieve the following points. First, to protect the potential of biodiversity and environmental forest services in national park by involving the local communities around the protected areas. I always convinced, I often call, we need to develop, we call it social fencing system. Yeah? Social fencing system, not a physical fencing system. That's why the importance of local communities or villages around the national park is very important as a main stakeholders. They're part of the landscape elements or seascape elements, or lands and seascapes elements. That's the local communities. The second, to tackle degraded and open areas through the land tenure and conflict resolution policies and ecosystem restoration. Third, to increase community participation through conservation partnership, community empowerment, as well as to raise public awareness to protect forest and marine ecosystem. Fourth, to optimize multi-stakeholders coordination, such as other ministries or institutions, local governments, private sectors, and other parties in supporting policies in developments of areas that intersect with protected areas. And finally, improve the management of protected areas development through increasing the effectiveness of protected area management. These actions are targeting concrete results in ecosystem recovery, both marine and terrestrial, through forest and other land use of Volunetzing 2030. Volunetzing 2030 for biodiversity and conservation consists of 4 main programs. First, conservation areas and increasing the species population. Second, high conservation value forests and fragmented habitat management. Third, intensification, environmental services. And fourth, conservation partnership. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, guests, and ladies and gentlemen, through this conference, I'm confident that we are able to show some best practices in ecosystem management, restoration strategies, and building resilience in each country at national level by taking essential steps to enhance the role of AHPs in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery. I hope this conference could provide enrichment towards our endeavor and knowledge exchange so that together we can contribute to the ecosystem conservation in the world. Finally, I would like to express our sincere gratitude and higher appreciation to all parties who involve and support this meeting or conference. We hope that the activities we carry out will be manifestation of our responsibility in preserving forests and marine ecosystem and biodiversity, conservation and benefiting the community. Together we can have more powerful impacts and contribution to ensure the sustainability of Earth's biodiversity, species and ecosystem. And we hope to stand ready to render our full support to advancing this cause. Now allow me to officially open this conference. And I wish you all have a fruitful meeting and pleasant stay in Bogor. Through working together, we should optimize that we could recover from this pandemic quickly. Let's continue working for biodiversity conservation through implementing evidence and scientific-based approach. Thanks so much for your kind attention.
Bentering cahyon ratas puningin terto gadang marang si gagat kanggus ulung kalenganing kalung meratan dan sang kolodoro kudu nindake kewajiban bedah sipatis peteng hanyu lari jagat saat isine ing kedaratan arum gandanyo.
Ladies
And
and
the
gentlemen,
The 7th ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference is officially open. Let's give a big round of applause. What an amazing performances ya, Rani.
From Gali, Montana. Thank you so much, Gali. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, we are also streaming live from our Facebook and YouTube, ASEAN Biodiversity. So you can watch us live from Jakarta, from all over the countries, especially from Southeast Asia. Okay, now ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry would like to present a few tokens of appreciation to all of our honorable guests and head of delegations from ASEAN member states. Therefore, we would like to invite all the honorable guests and head of delegates to come on the stage. I would like to call upon the stage Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim, Executive Director, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. His Excellency Igor Drismans, European Union Ambassador to ASEAN. Mr. Yoshiaki Inada, First Secretary Mission of Japan to ASEAN. His Highest Pangeran Muda Omar Ali from Brunei Darussalam. I would like to call upon the stage Mr. Hong Cham Nan from Cambodia. Mr. Sonadet Sokachalan from Lao PDR. DSG Abdul Wahid bin Abu Salim from Malaysia. Mr. Tan Zhao O from Myanmar. Miss Melinda Capistrano from Philippines. Mr. Mervin Tan Yongjun from Singapore. Mr. Siti Chai Seri Songsai from Thailand. And Dr. Tran Ngoc Chuong from Vietnam. Please kindly come to the stage to receive tokens of appreciation. And to deliver the tokens of appreciation, I would like to invite the Honorable Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia, the Honorable Alu Dohong PhD. And to accompany the Vice Minister, I would like to invite Ms. Indra Exploitasia, Director of Biodiversity, Conservation of Species and Genetics, Ministry of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia, and Mr. Jeffrey Susha Frianto, Director of Management of Protected Area, Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Republic of Indonesia. First of all, please to Mr. the Honorable Alu Dohong to hand over the token of appreciation to Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim, Executive Director of ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. Up next, Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim would also like to give the token of appreciation for the Vice Minister. Yeah, thank you very much to Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim for the appreciation for our Vice Minister. Thank you. Up next, we please our Vice Minister to hand over the token of appreciation to His Excellency Igor Drismans, European Union Ambassador to ASEAN. Up next, we would like to please Vice Minister to hand over the token of appreciation to His Excellency Igor Drismans, European Union Ambassador to ASEAN.
Yeah, and this token of appreciation describe the characteristic of the 7 AHP National Park areas and the result of empowerment around conservation area.
Next, we would like to hand over to Mr. Yoshiaki Inada, the first Secretary Mission of Japan to ASEAN.
Yeah, we have so many. First, we have Gunung Leuser National Park present eco-printing product by a group of women in the Bogor village of Gunung Leuser National Park. And also we have Kerinci Seblat National Park present batik incung, typical batik from Kerinci Regency, and a replica of the West Sumatra traditional house called Rumah Gadang.
Up next, we are moving to the head of delegates. First, we would like to hand over the token of appreciation to His Highness Pangeran Muda Omar Ali from Brunei Darussalam.
And we also have Waikambas National Park present a replica of the Sumatran rhino, which is the flagship species in the area, and also eco-print cloth from the Community Empowerment Program.
Next, the Vice Minister, we would like to please to hand over the token of appreciation to Mr. Hong Cham Nan from Cambodia.
And from Jakarta, we have Kepulauan Seribu National Park present replicas of traditional boats as a form of local wisdom that has been used by fishermen around the Kepulauan Seribu area for fishing.
Ladies and gentlemen, next we would like to invite the Vice Minister to hand over the token of appreciation to Mr. Saunadet Sok Chalen from Lao PDR.
And we are also...
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, please to the Vice Minister to hand over the token of appreciation to DSG Abdul Wahid bin Abu Salim from Malaysia.
And we also have Bantimurung Bulu Saraung National Park present product from the Forest Farmers Group and also the Women's Forest Farmer Group from the Bogor village of Bantimurung Bulu Saraung National Park.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdul Wahid bin Abu Salim. Up next, we would like to invite Mr. Tan Zhao O from Myanmar to receive the token of appreciation from our Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia.
Yeah, and from Wakatobi National Park presents special woven fabrics of Southeast Sulawesi.
Next, we would like to please invite Miss Melinda Capistrano from Philippines to receive our token of appreciation directly from our Vice Minister.
And also Lawrence National Park present wooden sculptures made by ingenious people around the area and clocks that have background image of Lawrence National Park unique ecosystem.
Next, we would like to invite Mr. Mervin Tan Yong Jun from Singapore to please receive our token of appreciation. Up next, we would like to invite Mr. Sitichai Seri Somsai from Thailand to kindly receive our token of appreciation.
Yeah, and I kindly remind this token of appreciation describe the characteristic of the 7 AHP National Park areas and the result of empowerment around conservation areas.
And last but not least, we would like to please Dr. Tran Ngoc Chuong from Vietnam to please receive the token of appreciation directly from our Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia, the Honorable Aludoho. Next, we would like to invite all the honorable guests and all the head of delegations to please take a position to have a photo session together with the Vice Minister and all the directors. Okay, on my count, in 3, 2, 1. One more time, please. In 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much.
Thank
to
you so
all
much.
the honorable guests and also all the head of delegates. Thank you very much.
And also I would like to inform you that especially for the VIPs guests, because we give you a book, a 4-book, yeah. There is a book, Wandering the Nature of Indonesia, The Magnificent 7 Indonesia's Marine National Park, Garuda Myths and Facts in Indonesia, and Natural Tourism of Indonesia National Park.
Thank you very much to all the delegates. You may kindly back to your seat. Thank you. And we would like to please Vice Minister Dr. Lim and Ambassador Drisman to please remain on the stage. We would like to invite Mr. Alu Duhong, the Vice Minister, to please to come to the stage because we are going to proceed with the Young ASEAN Storytellers Exhibition Lounge.
Yeah, and the Young ASEAN Storytellers or YAS exhibition is a virtual experience featuring conservation stories from the AHPs in the form of photography, artwork, written pieces, film videography, and other new media. And the stories are created by the YAS 20 outstanding young creatives selected from around the region to become communicators of biodiversity conservation to inspire the ASEAN public to care and take action for biodiversity.
And Your Excellencies, Vice Minister Dr. Lim and Ambassador Drisman, please stand by at the designation area and place your hand on the totem. I will count down from 3, 2, 1, and after that you may press down the button together. So are you ready? One more time, please. Place your hand on the totem together, and I will count down from 3, 2, 1, and after that you may press down the button together as a sign that yes, exhibition will be officially open. Are you ready, Your Excellencies? Okay, I will count down from 3, 2, 1. And now, yes, exhibition is finally over. Let's give a big round of applause for yes, exhibition. Well, that was, yes, exhibition. Ladies and gentlemen, we are inviting all participants of the conference to view the virtual exhibition through your personal devices by simply scanning the QR code that's shown on the screen. And you can also access it at the AHP booth in the AHP Marketplace exhibit. And now, ladies and gentlemen, and all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to move to the exhibit area and proceed to the next agenda, which is the opening ceremony of AHP 7 Marketplace and Exhibit. The committee will guide you to move to the next area, which is the AHP 7 Marketplace and Exhibit area. Thank you very much for coming to this opening ceremony. Enjoy your next session.
We will ceremony of AHP 7 Marketplace and Exhibit. I would like to invite the Honorable Mr. Alo Dohong, PhD, Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry of Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Igor Drismans, European Union Ambassador to ASEAN, and Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim, Executive Director, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. And His Highness Pangeran Muda Omar Ali, please join. And to designated area and do the ribbon cutting ceremony as a sign that this event is officially open. On my mark, are you ready? Okay, wait. Please be patient. Guys, no, please be patient. On my remark, yeah? Wait a minute. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, cut the ribbon. Wait, please give a big round of applause. And now AHP 7 Marketplace and Exhibit is officially open. Yeah, and the AHP 7 Marketplace and Exhibits will highlight the milestone and key accomplishment of the AHP program over the years, and it also provides an opportunity for the AHPs to showcase the features and biodiversity-based product of the parks and network with prospective partners. Okay, now we move to other areas. At ACB booth, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ACB booth, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. Okay, please have your seat. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in the ASEAN Centre of Biodiversity booth for Jive Publication Lounge. Please allow me to welcome our honorable guest, His Excellency or Honorable Alu Dohong, PhD, Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. Selamat siang, Pak. His Excellencies Igor Driesmans, European Union Ambassador to ASEAN. Welcome. Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim, Executive Director, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. And Mr. Yoshiaki Inada, First Secretary Mission of Japan to ASEAN. And now, may I invite Executive Director, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim, to deliver welcoming remarks. The floor is yours.
Dr. Alu Dohong, Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry, Indonesia. Excellency Igor Driesmans, First Secretary, Mission of Japan to ASEAN, Mr. Yoshiaki Inada. His Highness Pangeran Muda Omar Ali. Officials and representatives from the ASEAN member states, distinguished experts, partners, and colleagues. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the ACB booth. We are here today to launch two publications, the Field Guide to the Vascular Plants of the Mud Spring Area, Mount Makiling Forest Reserve in the Philippines, and the Manual on DNA Barcoding of Vascular Plants in the Tropics. These publications are the culmination of the project on taxonomic capacity building on DNA barcoding of common vascular plants in the tropics. Another successful collaboration with the Ministry of Environment of Japan through the Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund, our long-term partner in taxonomy and species conservation. In more than 250 years of taxonomic research, scientists have identified only a fraction of all species on Earth. Increasing pressures on biodiversity stresses the need for us to work harder and faster to identify and conserve species. DNA barcoding provides this advantage by hastening species identification and discovery. This and other technological tools and approaches will allow us to reduce gaps in information and provide a science-based foundation for decision-making and policy development in species conservation, ecosystem restoration, illegal wildlife trade, wildlife law enforcement, and access and benefit sharing. They will also be crucial in contributing to the achievement of the goals of the Global Taxonomy Initiative and the forthcoming post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. The field guide will feature species found in the Mount Makiling Forest Reserve, one of the 9 ASEAN heritage parks in the Philippines, and also the source of the specimens used in the DNA barcoding training. DNA barcodes have been generated for most of the featured species with the process described in the manual. These publications are significant contributions to the body of knowledge of the species richness of our ASEAN heritage parks and can further enhance the skills of our AHP management and other stakeholders in conserving our natural wealth. We are grateful to the government of Japan for its continued support through the JAIF and our partners, the Biodiversity Management Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines, the Institute of Biology, University of the Philippines in Diliman, and the Makiling Center for Mountain Ecosystems for their collaboration on this project and the completion of these two publications. We hope these books will be valuable references to help spread awareness on the application of DNA barcoding in enhancing the level of taxonomic knowledge in ASEAN. We look forward to scaling up these efforts towards scientific discoveries, with more AHPs benefiting from a better understanding of the richness of plant and animal species found in them, including the genetic diversity they contain. This would not be possible without the support of our dialogue and development partners, such as the JAIF, in demonstrating this year's ASEAN theme that we can indeed address challenges together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Clarissa Arida to introduce the publication. Ms. Clarissa Arida, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, good morning. Selamat pagi. This new field guidebook is a fifth in a series of guidebooks that we have produced in cooperation with the support from the Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund and the ASEAN member states. As with the other field guidebooks, these help increase the awareness and adds to the knowledge on plant biodiversity in ASEAN. And this guidebook will also be featured as part of this project, spreading the application of DNA barcoding in the region. The field is a must for park managers, for conservation workers, for field biologists, researchers, and students. And field guides are a way for people to connect with the natural environment by putting a specific face on the term biodiversity. Our collaboration with JAE provides the public, our taxonomy end users and stakeholders easy access to process taxonomic information that can help encourage greater public involvement in biodiversity conservation. We are pleased to present this publication to you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clarissa Rida. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Adrian Yulukzon from Institute of Biology, University of the Philippines, Diliman, to give his remarks and presentation.
Greetings to all our friends and partners in the ASEAN. It is with great pleasure that we launch our collaborative work entitled Manual on DNA Barcoding of Vascular Plants in Southeast Asia. This manual is a product of the partnership between the Institute of Biology in UP Diliman and the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity. This training manual is made to ensure the consistency in the protocols of researchers from ASEAN member states towards an integrative approach to taxonomy and conservation biology, particularly with the inclusion of DNA barcoding and bioinformatics. This manual will hopefully serve as a guide to better understand and appreciate biodiversity in the ASEAN, primary focus on generating interest for taxonomy and conservation in our various heritage parks. This training manual includes discussions on the requirements of a laboratory on DNA barcoding so that the ASEAN member states could apply the standard protocols of DNA barcoding in the respective laboratories. The training covers 4 parts. Part 1 introduces taxonomy, the concept of DNA barcoding, and specimen collection. Part 2 focuses on laboratory exercises, where specimens are used for DNA extraction and translated into barcodes. Part 3 discusses sequence analysis and bioinformatics, and how species information is included in global databases. Part 4 focuses on herbarium management of plant specimen collections. This manual targets the technical staff of the ministries and other stakeholders of the AMS, especially those coming from the academe, botanic gardens, and research institutions doing species conservation. The DNA information derived from the common indigenous species will hopefully fill the information gap in the global databases. This project would not have been possible if it were not for the support and collaboration provided by the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity and the Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund. It is our hope that this manual on DNA barcoding of vascular plants in Southeast Asia will provide impetus needed to move forward with protecting ASEAN biodiversity through partnerships. We look forward to seeing all our partners very soon and further our collaborations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the next agenda, let's watch this following video. All right. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to launch Jive publication. And would you please to rise for Bapak Alo Dohong, Mr. Igor Drisman, Dr. Teresa, and also Mr. Yoshiaki Inada, because Dr. Teresa Mundita Eslim, as Executive Director, ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, will hand over copies of the Jive publication to all the honorable guests. And the first, would you please to deliver it to Mr. Yoshiaki Inada? Okay, next to Mr. Igor. Okay, and last for Bapak Alo Dohong, as the Vice Minister of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. Okay, now ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Yoshiaki Inada and Mr. Igor, please join to photo group session together with Dr. Teresa and also Bapak Alo Dohong. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Okay then, and now we invite Director Juliana Bahar from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, partners and authors to join the photo. First, Director Juliana Bahar, ASEAN or Socio-Cultural Cooperation, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. Ms. Mirasol Ocampo, OIC, Wildlife Conservation Section, Wildlife Resource Division, Biodiversity Management Bureau, Deputy of Environment and Natural Resources, Philippines. Authors, Forester Leilani Castillo, Mr. Nick Manlisis, Makiling Center for Mountain Ecosystems, Mr. Adrian Lukzon, Institute of Biology, University of the Philippines, Diliman, and Dr. Filiberto Polisco Jr. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, please give big a round of applause. Oh, one more. Salam Lestari, it's called Salam Lestari. Okay, thank you ladies and gentlemen. You may return to your seat. And before we continue to the next agenda, I would like to invite Mr. Yoshiaki Inada, First Secretary Mission of Japan to ASEAN, to give his remarks. Mr. Yoshiaki Inada, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for coming this launch event. My name is Yoshiaki Inada. I'm a first secretary of Mission of Japan to ASEAN. On behalf of Japanese government, I make a very short remark. So firstly, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to make a short remark on the occasion of the 7th ASEAN Heritage Park Conference. I am very happy to have this remark on such a great event. The government of Japan, through Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund, which is called JAIF, has been collaborating with ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, ACB, in efforts for capacity building of representatives of the ASEAN member states in taxonomy since 2010. JAIF has supported the ACB for the AMS to enhance skill and knowledge in taxonomy, resulting in taxonomy workshop and manuals of field guides on the identification of the organisms and plants in Gunung Mulu National Park in Malaysia and Doi in Thatnom National Park in Thailand. These programs have successfully trained more than 60 participants from conservation organizations, scientific and academic institutions, protected area, and ASEAN Heritage Park in the AMS. JAIF extended its support to the ACB project taxonomy capacity building of DNA barcoding of common vascular plants in the tropics, which produced a manual on DNA barcoding vascular plants in Southeast Asia. The Convention of Biological Diversity, CBD, encouraged parties of the CBDs to use DNA barcoding in taxonomy due to its wider application of various aspects in biodiversity conservation and management. DNA barcoding will be utilized among greater range of stakeholders, including scientists. Thus, this project provided opportunity to develop capacity DNA barcoding among representatives of the AMS, as well as produce two relevant publications: the Manual of DNA Barcoding of Vascular Plants in Southeast Asia and the Field Guides of Vascular Plants of the Mud Spring Area, Mount Maclean Forest Reserve, Philippines. DNA barcodes were obtained for the species included in the field guidebook. The project and its publication from part of larger effort to remove the taxonomic impediment in ASEAN contribute to the achievement of Aichi.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Now we invite you to enjoy the coffee break provided on the foyer area outside this ballroom, because we are going to continue the session, which is the plenary session, at 11 p.m. 11 a.m. One more time, please. We would like to kindly invite you to enjoy the coffee break provided at the foyer area. And we are going to continue our session, which is the plenary session, at 11 a.m. Thank you very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting hot here, so it's time for us to move to Indonesian Pavilion booth.
Good, good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to invite all the guests to enter the main ballroom because we are going to start the plenary sessions in a few minutes. One more time, we would like to invite all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to enter the main ballroom as we are going to start the plenary session in a few minutes. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to invite all the participants to come to the main area or the main ballroom as we are going to start the plenary session immediately. One more time, please. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to invite all the participants to enter the main ballroom, the main area, because we are going to start the plenary session immediately. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. And may peace be upon all of us. Thank you for staying with us at 7th ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference. And we are going to proceed to the next agenda, which is the plenary session. And to give a kickstart, please allow me to invite Mr. Basil van Havre, co-chair for the Convention on Biological Diversity's Open-Ended Working Group, who has joined with us virtually through online to deliver first keynote presentation about post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. To Mr. Basil van Havre, the screen is yours.
Pleasure to join you today and give you a brief on the status of the negotiation of the post-2020 framework. My name is Basil Van Havre, and together with Francis Savoy, we're the co-chair of the Open-Ended Working Group. After several consultations in 2019 and 4 meetings of the Open-Ended Working Group, including the 4th meeting that just were held in June in Nairobi, the process has reached a critical stage. It is now time for country delegates to advance the negotiation of the framework in order to enable its adoption at COP15 here in Montreal in December. The 4 meetings of the working group made some important progress, but this was not enough. Consensus was reached on target 12 on green and blue space and on target 19.2 on capacity building and technology transfer. Therefore, we get the bulk of the framework still to work on. On the issue of digital sequencing information, we made significant progress, and we're very close to have a roadmap and progress. The message we want to leave with you is we need to have very strong mandate for consensus and reaching a solution given to you delegates. We need political leadership aiding the framework negotiation for the few remaining months.
Dear ASEAN Senior Officers on the Environment, we call upon you to provide your negotiators with strong mandates, not only to ensure your views are carried through the negotiations, but at the same time to enable them to find consensus and solutions. Dear ASEAN Senior Officials on the Environment, we call upon you to raise the visibility of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. We call upon you to engage with your counterparts in other regions with a view to seeking compromise and strong flexibility without losing the gains for your region. With the significant work still ahead of us, the 5th meeting of the Open-Ended Working Group is being convened from 3rd to 5th December 2022 here in Montreal, Canada, just before the opening of COP15. The objective of this final meeting of the working group is to prepare a revised version of the framework for consideration and adoption at COP15 in Montreal, Canada in December. I am also pleased to inform you that an informal meeting of the informal group was held last week in Montreal, Canada to help us streamline the text of the framework. The outcomes of the informal group will be made available, and it is our hope that this work will facilitate advancing negotiations at the 5th meeting of the working group. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the framework when adopted will be a blueprint for action, a pillar for socioeconomic recovery to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and to attain by 2050 the vision of living in harmony with nature. We thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for Mr. Basil Van Havre for the keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next agenda, we would like to invite Dr. Ruliana Susanti, National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN, from Indonesia, to deliver her presentation about the post-2020 targets, prospect, issues, and challenges for protected areas. Dr. Ruliana Susanti, the stage is yours.
Distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Salam Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. May God bless us upon. On behalf of Professor Gono Semiadi, who originally should be here today, I would like to convey his apologies for not being able to attend today's meetings. My name is Ruliana Susanti, from the Secretariat on Scientific Authority for Biodiversity, National Research Innovations Agency, Indonesia. In this opportunity, I would like to present to you all the presentation with this title. Next, please. Okay. First, this picture shows major part on biodiversity issues, starting with the adoptions of CBD in 1992. And almost 20 years later, the world agrees on the first global target on biodiversity known as Aichi target with the term of 2010 to 2020. This global target consists of 20 targets. Next, we're also familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030, which is a universal call of action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure by 2030 all people could enjoy peace and prosperity. As we already know, we are at the end of the first global target and in the middle of the SDGs. We are about to welcome a new global target, the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, for the term of 2020 to 2050, with the interval media in 2030 and 2040. The new global targets are prepared taking into account the achievement from the previous Aichi target. Next slide, please. The Aichi target were set to protect and conserve the biodiversity that underpin global food security, health, and clean water. While the new global target has more ambitious vision, which is living in harmony with nature, where by 2050, biodiversity is valued, conserved, restored, and wisely used, maintaining ecosystem services, sustaining a healthy planet, and delivering benefit essential for all peoples. In this presentation, for example, here I took two Aichi target linkages with the protections area. Target 5, which is the natural habitat rate loss, is at least half by 2020, and target 11, at least 70% of terrestrial and inland water and 10% of marine are conserved. I believe that everybody here already very familiar with this global target. So let us analyze more on the achievement of the Aichi target. Next slide, please. Global Biodiversity Outlook that has constructed based on the national report of every ZBD parties shows that global community has not fully achieved any of the global target. Target 5, on the half of rate loss reported, has not been achieved, while target 11, that address the value of protected area and other effective area-based conservation measures, are proven and vital, has among targets that have achieved partially. The proportions of protected area has met the global target by 2020. However, the representativeness of ecosystem, important area for biodiversity, the ecological connectivity and integrity, as well as the effective management in wider scale, was observed to be moderately achieved. Next slide, please. Here, I present The data from the Protect Planet report show the protected area and OACM changed since 1990. There is a stable increase of terrestrial protected area from 1990, and significant increase can be seen for marine protected area in the last 10 years. Over 21 million kilometer square area has placed within protected and conserved area since 2010. As the result, it is adding to 22.5 million kilometers square or 19.94% of land and inland water ecosystem, and 7.74% of coastal water and ocean are within protected area and OACM. This is the proportions that I said before, that we might be achieved it in 2020, which is we already passed it 2 years ago. However, those protected area has not covered the most important sites for biodiversity, which critical for global persistence of biodiversity and ensuring the long-term protection of nature. This important site known as the key biodiversity area. Next slide, please. In 2016, the report shows that our regions, the Asia Pacific, has many homework. Despite progress that being made, we still have many important biodiversity area that was not yet covered in the protected area or OACM. We already presented, next slide. Okay, this is for the new global target, the post-2020 global biodiversity target will consist of 4 goals and 21 targets. Goal A, which is reducing threat for biodiversity, is the goal that related directly with the protection area, has several key points. In particular, enhancement of the connectivity and integrity of all ecosystem. Oh, next slide, please. Healthy and resilient populations, reduce the rate of extinctions, and safeguarding the genetical diversity. The post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework is anticipated to incorporate a more ambitious coverage target on protected and conservation area than Aichi Target 11, alongside quality elements. A focus on such element will be essential to ensuring that system of protected and conserved area achieve real conservation outcome. Next slide, please. The burden being in the Asian regions is presented here. To achieve the goal A, tropical forests as the largest portions of world forests which contain high biodiversity is an important key to achieve the goals. Based on the FAO report, the total forest area is 4.09 billion hectares. However, the forests are not equally distributed along the globe. 66% of forests are found in only 5 countries, as shown in this picture. For Asia, it includes China, Indonesia, and India. On October 2022, Forest Declaration Platform published a report on forest assessment. Next slide, please. To achieve the global goal, halting and reversing deforestation is essential. However, deforestation rates around the world decline only modestly. In humid tropics, primary forests decreased by only 3.1%. This graph shows the rate of deforestation change in 2021, and we can see that the rate of deforestation in Asian region mostly decreasing. Next. But the question is, then, are we doing the best or the worst compared to the other regions? Next slide, please. Okay. The vast majority of deforestation takes place in the tropical region of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Although deforestation decreased in 2021, tropical Asia is the only region currently on track to halt deforestation by 2030. This leaves another big question. Where the others and how the others region will overcome this progress? In this graph, in the lower part of the graph, the gray line represented by the other regions seems to be flat with no deforestation. Is it because there is no deforestation, or because the country has stopped its deforestation program long time ago and enjoy the benefit of the modernization in technology developments? Or perhaps the remaining forest area is small and already protected. Next slide. This graph shows the proportion of forest area within legally established protected area in some Asian countries reported in 2000 compared to 2020. Compare also with the world and the global target. Even though I didn't present all the Asian countries, in here, for example, Vietnam, Singapore, and Malaysia have less than 30% within the protected area. In this graph, only Indonesia has 50% forest within the protected area. The global target cannot be achieved only by protected area, thus also other effective conservation measures should be counted and well managed. Next, protected area is a must in each and every country for the home of their natural biodiversity heritage, the continuation of ecosystem for healthy environment. However, the major challenges are seeking the balance through fair trade. Every country needs to identify their strengths and challenges that will be faces in achieving the global target and goals. For example, for Indonesia archipelago comprises approximately 70,000 islands, in which around 990 are permanently inhabited. There are 7 major biogeographic regions in Indonesia, and counted as 17 mega diverse countries, with 2 of the world's 25 hotspots and 24 endemic bird area. Indonesia possesses 10% of the world's flowering species, estimated 25,000 flowering plants, with 55% of it are endemics. For fauna diversity, about 12% of the world's mammal and 16% of the world reptile, 35 species of primate, further 70% of the total species of bird, and 270% of amphibian places in Indonesia. Indonesia also has 566 national parks covering more than 36 million hectares, which consists of 470 terrestrial protected area and 76 marine protected area. Those are the modalities that a country has. And how about the challenges? Next slide, please. The main factor affecting biodiversity loss and species extinction in Indonesia are habitat degradations and fragmentation, landscape change, overexploitations, pollutions, climate change, invasive alien species, forest and land fires, and the economic and political crisis occurring in the countries. Each and every country needs to overcome all these challenges to meet the global target. Next slide, please. Forests, as the important component of the nature, plays a significant role for the economic development. To preserve or not to, it relies only left to the tropical regions. It can be burdened when it is used too much political pressure for the equal benefit for the national developments. Next slide. Because the new global target focused specifically on forests and also, of course, on marine, it seems that rich biodiversity developing country, include some countries in Asian regions, are under greater pressure than developing countries. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much to Dr. Ruliana Susanti, National Research and Innovation Agency of Indonesia, for your remarks. Next, we would like to invite Mr. Arif Rizky Bahtiar, Senior Project Officer, ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework Unit, to deliver his presentation about advancing towards a more sustainable and resilient future, ACRF Broad Strategy 5. So, to Mr. Arif Rizky Bahtiar, the stage is yours.
Good morning, selamat pagi. It's almost lunchtime and I still have 99 slides with me. I hope you can stay with me until the end. No, I'm kidding. My name is Arif. I'm from the ASEAN Secretariat representing the ACRF or ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework Support Unit. After the presentation from Dr. Susanti on the post-2020 global target, please allow me to present the updates on our regional response and recovery efforts from the COVID-19 pandemic, with particular focus on mainstreaming biodiversity in all aspects in ASEAN. First, if we go to the next slide, please. Maybe I can start with the regional economic outlook in terms of health and economic sector. So in terms of economic outlook, our economy in ASEAN is projected to grow by 5.1% this year and 5% next year. This is particularly given the widespread vaccination efforts, resumption of economic activities, as well as on the reopening policies introduced by the ASEAN member states. We have also observed during the pandemic there have been greater efforts in facilitating sustainable trade and investment, such as on the introduction of cross-border paperless trade, as well as the introduction of special treatment for perishable goods as part of the agricultural trade facilitation. In the meantime, this promising outlook was facilitated by, among others, the robust public health measures in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. As of last week, the estimate is that about 70% of the total ASEAN population have been fully vaccinated. This is also aligns with the target set by the WHO to vaccinate 70% of the total population by mid-2020. More than 33% of the total ASEAN population have received booster vaccination, which will be further expedited through the utilization of the COVID-19 ASEAN Response Fund. This is a regional resource pooling mechanism where we have been utilized to procure and distribute vaccines to the peoples of ASEAN in the past 2 years. Next slide, please. So with the ongoing recovery at site, our discussion now has shifted on how to make this momentum, not only about today, but also about the future, and leverage the efforts to seal the resiliency of our region. In this regard, ASEAN is ripe of green opportunities, departing from our biodiversity wealth and the magnitude of the available sustainable financing. So for example, with 75% of human disease originated from zoonosis, advancing biodiversity agenda, including through forest and protected areas conservation, becomes important as buffer from the spillover of the close contact cross species. FAO also noted that South Asia and Southeast Asia are among the regions with the highest number of protected areas worldwide, equivalent to about 14% share of the total global coverage. In the meantime, as conservation will require a long-term commitment, financing becomes important in ASEAN. So in the region itself, financing towards sustainable projects continues to gain traction. Last year alone, renewable energy was the top sector receiving international project finance, about $46.5 billion, equivalent to 40% share of the received project finance. Renewable energy sector also witnessed the largest increase of project financing last year, with about increase of 46.5 billion in 2021. So with this in mind, the pandemic recovery beyond COVID-19 will need to sustain commitment, which can be translated into the wide range of support from expertise, best practices to continue financing in protecting and shielding our biodiversity wealth. Next slide, please. So there are a number of regional initiatives in terms of COVID-19 response and recovery. For example, I mentioned earlier about the COVID-19 ASEAN Response Fund. We are also establishing the ASEAN Centre for Public Health Emergencies and Emerging Diseases, which will serve as a center of excellence to strengthen regional capabilities in prepare, prevent, detect, and respond to public health emergencies. In the meantime, in 2020, we adopted the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework, which serves as the whole of community's consolidated exit strategy from the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. So the ACRF itself was adopted in 2020. The strategies work in 5 broad strategies: health system, human security, economic integration, inclusive digital transformation, and last but not least is on sustainability and resilient future. And so far, the framework is accompanied by a living document, an implementation plan, which comprises of more than 180 specific actions and initiatives across these 5 broad strategies. As of now, more than 50% of the total initiatives have been completed, with the remaining initiatives are ongoing to be implemented in the next years to improve resiliency in the region. So on this presentation, I will underline our priorities on sustainability as shown in the broad strategy 5 on sustainability and resilient future. Next slide, please. So on broad strategy 5 of ACRF, there are 7 key priorities, which is on sustainable development in all dimensions. We introduced the framework for circular economy, which covers 3 main areas as a pilot, which is on transport, food, agriculture, forestry, as well as on energy. We have work ongoing on marine debris pollution, and there are a number of various initiatives to help us transitioning to sustainable energy. For example, in terms of renewable energy, the share of installed power capacity last year reached about 33% of 2020, which is only 1% remaining gap from our 2035 target. In the meantime, there are also a number of ongoing works on green infrastructure, responsible and sustainable investment, as well as various works on mainstreaming biodiversity across relevant sectors. For example, we have finalized the ASEAN strategy for preventing zoonotic diseases transmission from wildlife trade. This document will be submitted for ASEAN leaders at the upcoming ASEAN Summit 2 weeks from now for their notation. There are also a number of key initiatives that have been conducted to mainstream and advance biodiversity agenda to mitigate potential zoonotic diseases in the region. For example, there's the scoping study on the biodiversity-focused surveillance mechanism on zoonotic diseases, the conduct of ASEAN Conference on Biodiversity and the relevant workshop on biodiversity, engaging youth through the Young ASEAN Storytellers Program, and the launching of the ASEAN Green Initiative. Many of these initiatives, I'm sure you have been familiar with as part of our regional sustainability agenda. We are also promoting the importance of sustainable agriculture and improving the utilization of digital technologies, such as through climate-smart agriculture, to build a resilient value chain. There are also a number of initiatives on disaster risk and management, as well as on sustainable financing, including the ASEAN Taxonomy, ASEAN Green Social and Sustainability Bond Standards, and the ASEAN Sustainable Banking Principles, providing the baseline document for ASEAN to work toward sustainable finance in the future. Next and last slide, please. So, 2 ways forward I would like to highlight during this session. The first, that business as usual is no longer an option for us. Moving forward, we will need multi-stakeholders collaboration with various sectors, including private sectors, academia, civil societies organization, as well as young people to work with us, and we underline the importance of whole of communities approach in ASEAN's regional sustainability agenda. The last and second point is that we need to be mindful of the emerging challenges arising from the prolonged impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, such as on food security and energy resiliency. And in doing so, inclusivity should be put at the core of sustainability initiatives, recalling that those vulnerable, including indigenous communities, will be at the forefront during the impacts. And with that regard, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arif Rizky Bahtiar, for your presentation. Moving on to the next agenda, we would like to invite Mr. Sonadet Sokchalen, Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, Lau PDR, to deliver his remarks. To Mr. Sonadet Sokchalen, the stage is yours.
Dear ASEAN head delegation, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me start with my presentation on the lifting of the past AHP conference and the AHP 7 team with the expression of gratitude. First of all, I would like to thank the government of Indonesia for hosting this 7 AHP conference and inviting delegates from ASEAN member states and development partners. I also would like to express my deepest gratitude to the team of ASEAN Centre, Biodiversity, ACB, development partners, and everyone who coordinated and organized this conference on several months. Next slide, please. I'm grateful for being here today, and it's an honor to have the opportunity to have the reflection on the 6th ASEAN Heritage Park Conference. The 6th AHP Conference was held from 21st to 24th October in Pakse, Lau PDR, Champasak Province, Lau PDR, with the theme Sustainability and Innovation for Parks and People, celebrating 35 years of ASEAN Heritage Parks. The conference coincides with the celebration of the 35th anniversary of the ASEAN Heritage Parks program, and the conference serves as a venue to share best practice, results of the recent studies in AHPs, promote success stories, and showcase opportunities for future funding and assistance for AHPs. So more than 300 participants representing stakeholders from 49 AHPs national focal points in the AMS development and dialogue partners, local communities, and women and youth groups attended the 4-day conference. Next slide, please. The AHP 6 features 2 important meetings on the first day, setting the tone and direction of the whole conference, the AHP managers meeting and the policy dialogues on protected areas, landscape and wildlife. The policy dialogue featured the EU's publication Larger Than Tigers, which highlighted the ASEAN region's natural capital and provides analysis in support of a strategic approach to curbing environmental degradation and biodiversity loss in the region. The session features the different efforts of the AMS in protected areas and AHP management and sustainable financing, and explore wider conservation approaches and efforts in hunting species existing. So the AHP managers meeting convinced AHP committee members, managers, and park superintendents of the AHPS. It covers country reports on the AHPS, identify issues and challenges on the attainment of the goals of AHP Regional Action Plan, and recommended actions to improve its implementation. Next slide, please. To encourage more sectors and examine other cross-cutting issues, the conference has 7 parallel sessions on achieve biodiversity targets, 11 on protected areas, and 12 species conservation, innovation, financing, business, and biodiversity, women, youth, and indigenous people and local communities, sustainable livelihoods and biodiversity-based products, and protected areas as nature-based solution to climate change. Next slide, please. As part of the conference, the AHP 6 marketplace and exhibit was also organized. The marketplace of future biodiversity-based products from Laopida and the AHPS to accelerate ASEAN culture with participants in their respective national attire. The ASEAN Culture Night has also conducted. The highlight of the evening was the awarding of the certificates to 9 ASEAN Heritage Paths. So the conference also celebrated the successful and long-term collaboration between ASEAN member states and development and dialogue partners that have helped strengthen biodiversity conservation in AHPS and in the region through a partnership dinner. Concluding the AHP6, delegates visited Sapien National Protected Area and Tat Phan Trin Waterfront to learn more about the protected area management practice in Laopida. Next slide, please. Throughout the 4 days of fruitful and constructive dialogues in the AHP6, the speakers clearly reflected upon the key messages such as the first one, AHP6 clearly demonstrated the importance accorded by the ASEAN in protecting its wealth of biodiversity for the benefits of ASEAN people. And the second one, also the AHP6 provided a great opportunity to discuss and identify actions to address issues on protected areas management, landscape and seascape approaches to conservation, and addressing wildlife crime to avoid the impending extinction crisis in ASEAN as well as. And protected areas are the foundation of biodiversity conservation. Protected areas and other area-based conservation measures are proven virtual and cost-effective nature-based strategy. Next slide, please. Even though we have great success, great achievements on protected biodiversity, managing the protected areas, and addressing other environmental issues in ASEAN, there are still a number of challenges we need to overcome. So in the AHP6, the sessions puts forward the following call for actions. The first one, accelerate implementation of the Target 11, mainstream biodiversity in protected areas and other sectors. Second point, address species conservation at all levels of the chain. Ensure cross-pillar and inter-agency collaboration. And increase funding for biodiversity conservation. Enhance partnership with the private sector. And private sector needs to mainstream biodiversity. Community inclusion is a key greater conservation. Engage IPLCS, women and youths more strongly in all levels of decision-making processes. Recognizing traditional knowledge and support community-based initiatives. Develop an AHP certification program. And the last one, urgency for climate action and bringing in protected areas at the center of conservation. Next slide, please. The conference also identified the following recommendations and way forward. The first one, enhance support to cross-sectoral collaboration on protected area management with support from partners under existing ACB program, and enhance support to AHP sites through capacity building to address protected area management issues, and review the AHP will consider the conference report and recommendations. And inputs from the AHP6 will contribute to the ACB 2020 and the ASEAN roadmap to 15 conference of parties to the CBD, and convene the conference report and record recommendation to networks and partner overlay further cooperation and support to the AHP program. Next slide, please. I'm also pleased to share with all of you the accomplishments of the AHP program following recommendation of the AHP6. The ASEAN region has demonstrated progress toward the achievement of the AHP Biodiversity target, particular Tiger 17. The protected area covered in the ASEAN increased with 15.57% of the total and land area and 3.88% of the territorial waters as of October 2021. The recommendations of the conference have been considered as valuable inputs to the ACB 2020 and the ASEAN Joint Statement for CBD COP 15. I would like to commend the relentless efforts of the ASEAN AMS and ACB to enhance cross-sectoral collaboration on protected area management, mainstreaming biodiversity into key development sector, have ensured the increased engagement of the key sectors from other sectors as well as the private sectors. Through the support of the various ACB programs and projects, a number of capacity development activities were conducted for the AHPs at the regional level. Training activities on smart and sustainable financing and economics of biodiversity were organized. At the site level, capacity development activities on law enforcement, livelihood, and protected area management were conducted. Next slide, please. The AHP6 recommendations are also being considered in the ongoing formulation of AHP ARP 2023 and to 2013, and the development of the AHP operations menu. Next, the successful conduct of the 6th AHP conference has also been recognized during the 36th ASEAN Summit held on 26 June 2020 to the Chairman's Statements of Vietnam. I would like to express gratitude to everyone who helped organize AHP 6 as well as the participants and resource speakers for their contributions to the conference. Next slide, please. For this year, theme of the AHP 7 is Healing Nature and People, the role of AHPs in ecosystem restoration and pandemic recovery, which straight to first one, role of protected areas in the recovery from and prevention of future pandemics. Second, building a resilient future and strengthening stakeholders' participation and resilience. So AHP 7 will feature 6 parallel sessions and a number of existing events. I'm already looking forward to interesting presentations, productive discussion, and our continued cooperation. I wish everyone a successful conference. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sonadet Sokchalin, for your speech. And now we're going to listen to some overview of the parallel session. First topic is about protected areas, human health, and preventing future pandemics. That will be presented by Mr. Mervin Tan, Director Conservation of National Parks Board from Singapore. To Mr. Mervin Tan, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is really nice to see all of you in person here at the 7th ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference. It is my absolute pleasure and privilege to share an overview of the session 1 entitled Protected Areas, Human Health, and Preventing Future Pandemics. I'm Mervin Tan, Director at the Conservation Division of Singapore's National Parks Board, and I will be the chair of the session today, one of the chair of the session today, which will happen at later 1 p.m. The session is co-chaired by Dr. Ronello Abila, Sub-Regional Representative for Southeast Asia. He's also the World Organization for Animal Health, Sub-Regional Representative for Southeast Asia. We are honored to have the World Organization for Animal Health as co-organizers of the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity for this session. We have the esteemed discussants from the 2 divisions of the ASEAN Secretariat. Firstly, we have Mr. Jim Katampongan. He is the Senior Officer of the Health Division under the Human Development Directorate of ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community Department, and Mr. Dian Sukmajaya, who is the Senior Officer of the Food, Agriculture, and Forestry Division under the Sectorial Development Directorate of ASEAN Economic Community Department. Next slide. So this session will focus on these 3 following areas. Primarily, it will be about the interlinkages of biodiversity and health, and followed by the sharing of good practices and lessons learned from the ASEAN Heritage Parks, responses during the pandemic, and lastly, it is to also strengthen the management of the AHPs, guided by the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework. Next. The session is divided into 2 parts. The first part will provide the understanding on the link between protected areas, zoonotic diseases, and human health. We have invited 4 brilliant resource speakers who will provide a discussion on the following. So Dr. Serge Moran, he's going to be talking about the biodiversity, zoonotic diseases, and nature-based solutions. Dr. Scott Newman will be covering One Health in the environment sector and its relevance in the management of ASEAN Heritage Parks. Ms. Andina Aurea Wibutri, she'll be talking about strategy and approach, integration of One Health initiative to prevent future pandemics at the source. Last but not least, we have Mr. Justinus Gunterbit, who will be talking about adaptive park management and response to pandemic preparedness in Kinabalu Park. Next slide, please. The second part of the session will capture the ASEAN Heritage Parks experiences on pandemic response, recovery, and actions to build resilience to prevent future pandemics. In this sharing of good practices and lessons learned, we have invited the best speakers who will discuss the following. Protected Area Superintendent Hector Aragones will be talking about crisis ready, particularly AHP's good practices and lessons learned during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Followed by my very own colleague, Ms. Liu Qi from Bukit Timah Nature Reserve in Singapore. She's going to be talking about managing people, managing parks for people and biodiversity. And lastly, we have Ms. Suwari Singwai from Mukong Ang Thon Marine National Park, Thailand. And she'll be talking about actions during the COVID-19 outbreak in the national park. So after all the presentations, there will be a panel discussion where recommendations or ways forward such as potential cross-sectorial and cross-pillar collaboration for recovery and resilience building to prevent future pandemics. With that, I wish all of you a successful conference ahead. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you to Mr. Mervin Tan, Director Conservation National Parks Board from Singapore. Up next, we are moving to the next presentation, which is the second presentation, with the topic Sustainable Financing for AHPs that will be presented by Ms. Yuliana Bahar as a Director for ASEAN Socio-Cultural Cooperation. To Ms. Yuliana Bahar, the stage is yours.
Yeah, just to sound check. Can you hear me loud and clear? Okay, I hate to be that person to stand between you and your right to food. And understanding in the interest of time, I'm going to make it concise. So my name is Yuliana Bahar. I'm the Director for Socio-Cultural Cooperation of ASEAN in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'll be co-chairing the second parallel session 2 about sustainable financing for ASEAN Heritage Park. And we're gonna convene this session into 2 parts. And the first part is sustainable financing for protected areas, in which we're gonna, I'm sorry, can we skip to the next slide, please? Thank you so very much. In which we're gonna have our able speakers. I'm sorry, I should have said, we're gonna begin with keynote speech for the first part about rethinking protected area finance in a post-pandemic world by Ms. Lucy Emerton, Environment Management Group. And then we're gonna have other speakers who will talk about financing gaps in AHPs and the available or practical approaches to narrow them by Dr. Marian de Los Angeles from B Camp near us. And then we're going to have a theme about ecological fiscal transfer as a sustainable financing approach in Malaysia, presented by Mr. Zuhali bin Zulkarnain, KTSA Malaysia. And then we're going to have sustainable financing activities in Myanmar by Mr. Min Hein Thich, do pardon my pronunciation, from Wildlife Conservation Society, Myanmar. And then interestingly, we're going to have Islamic Green Bond or Sukuk and Protected Area Financing by Mr. Dewa Putu Ekayana, Ministry of Finance of Indonesia. And then we're going to have some reflection coming from Dr. Christy Marie Sinozawa, the Samdana Institute. That's for the first part of our session. And then moving on to the second part, next slide, thank you so very much. We're gonna have a theme about best practices and models of business planning for protected areas from the region, in which we're gonna have the presentation from Mr. Taufik Bahar. What a beautiful coincidence. We share the same last name. From Endau Rompin Johor National Park, Malaysia. And Miss Emily T. Ibonia Agusan Mars Wildlife Sanctuary, Philippines. And we're going to have some reflection from Miss Annabelle Plantilla from Biodiversity Finance Initiatives, or BioFin, United Nations Development Programs. Just to sum up the importance of the second session, money is very important. So be there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Juliana Bahar, for your brief presentation. Up next, we are moving to the third topic, which is evaluating effectiveness of protected areas, that will be presented by Mr. Maipol Spite from Sabah Parks. To Mr. Maipol Spite, the stage is yours.
Good morning to our esteemed guests, colleagues, and delegates. Thank you to the Indonesian government and ASEAN Centre of Biodiversity and our very partner of having this momentous event. I am Maipol Spite, Senior Principal Assistant Director of the Sabah Parks. Please allow me to share with you the overview of Section 3, Evaluating Effectiveness of Protected Area. Please, slide number 3. I only have 5 slides, don't worry. Okay. Establishing a functional monitoring system of the protected area are crucial to ensure that conservation goals are achieved, accompanied by regular and effective monitoring tools. With our ASEAN Heritage Park recognized with good example in PA management, it is important that our monitoring system also support database management and for better information exchange of learning, best practice management, and governance practice and enforcement to address threat. And this is captured with our practice of the application of the management effective tracking tools, or METT, which we will have the opportunity to learn today. The Section 3, we will feature story and work in progressive from various PA and PA networking across the ASEAN region from the site-based approach to collaborative effort in the national and regional context of METT implementation. This session aims to investigate and understand the impact of different elements of monitoring and evaluation. For example, METT include context, planning, input, process, output, and outcome. The specific objective of the session are the following. The one, present progress in METT4, METT Smart, and other monitoring tools. The second one is sharing learning and best practice and PA management in pipeline initiative at the national and regional level in promoting management effectiveness of PA. This session will be divided in two parts. The first part will provide an overview of the METT as a monitoring tools and discussion other approach for effective protected area management. We have interesting and very relevant presentation, including multi-dimensional indicator to improve and where we measure environment management effective of protected area by Dr. Nel Adrian Malari of Center for Bioconservation Innovation, Philippines. Number 2, METT in ASEAN, looking forward to post-2020 GBF by Dr. Robert Becher of NIRAS, and number 3, analyzing the IUCN Green List, and the ASEAN Heritage Park by Master Khalid Pasha of the IUCN ASEAN Regional Office. The second part of the session moved towards the site-level implementation of MATT and how we can learn from this experience. Master Jeffrey Suryanto, the Director of PA Management, MOEF Indonesia, will be sharing the implementation of Smart MATTA for effective PA management. He will be followed by the Ms. Piranakul Kapel of the National Parks Office, DNP Thailand, on MATT lesson learned from Tarato National Park, Thailand. Last for the presenter is from Master Tuan Haji Edi Amarti Hanif bin Muhammad Hanif of the Taman Negara Pahang National Park. Mr. Tuan Haji will be sharing experience of Malaysia and using MATT in assisting impact of large-scale PA project. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have a good roster of presentation and learning discussion of session 3, and we hope we implement this learning of our AHP sites and improve our MATT application. We invite everyone to join our session later this afternoon, starting at 1 p.m. at Kijang Room number 2, second floor. We hope to see you there, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Maipol Spite. The next topic would be women, youth, and local communities in protected area management. That will be presented by Ms. Rachel Rescordedo, 2020 ASEAN Youth Biodiversity Leader from the Philippines. To Ms. Rachel, time is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel Rescordedo, a youth biodiversity leader from the Philippines and a research assistant of the Guyuan Development Foundation, Incorporated. I am also one of the speakers for Session 4, entitled Women, Youth, and Local Communities in Protected Area Management. Our session will highlight the important roles of stakeholders from local communities to women and the youth as an integral part of protected area management. And this will highlight ecosystem restoration. This session will also explore the topic through a unique and enjoyable format, which is divided into 3 parts. First, we will be hearing 7 speakers that would share diverse stories on the topic from the ASEAN as a region, going down to the national level and to communities from the ground. Then, this will be followed by an interactive role play based on real-world events about a road building project which will go through a fictional Mashanti town in a fictional ASEAN Heritage Park, the Inati National Park. Participants in this session will get a chance to explore the positions and views of different stakeholders in this road building project, including the local communities, government officials, and international funders such as the World Bank. Finally, the third part of the session will be a reflection and debriefing on the role play that will generate, hopefully, good recommendations about collaborative management in and around protected areas. Through this innovative session format with the youth, women, and all of the stakeholders, we hope to engender empathy among different stakeholders involved with the ultimate goal of improving conservation, and management outcomes. So if you want to enjoy, laugh, and do a lot of things for ecosystem, come and join us for session 4. Thank you so much.
Wow, so empowering. Thank you so much, Ms. Rasel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move to the next topic, which is ecotourism, business and biodiversity, that will be presented by Mr. Syed Mohazri Syed Hazari, DHI from Malaysia, to Mr. Syed Mohazri. Time is yours.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to deliver this overview as the co-chair for Parallel Session 5 on ecotourism, business and biodiversity. I am Syed Mohazri Syed Hazari, and I will be chairing the session with Ms. Jana Lyra Manyagit from the Metro Pacific Investments Corporation. The health and socio-economic repercussions of the COVID pandemic have been, to say the least, challenging for communities all over the world. Protected areas in the ASEAN region, including the ASEAN Heritage Parks, are not spared from the impacts of this global health crisis. From tourism revenue losses to reduced mobility of staff and managers, protected areas are reeling from the consequences of the ongoing and lingering global health crisis. As we exit from this pandemic towards recovery, we now recognize the need for us to collaborate and work together if we desire to have thriving businesses, healthy ecosystems, resilient livelihoods, and sustainable tourism economies. We often hear that we need to go beyond business as usual if we are to move towards a better and greener normal post-pandemic, and that biodiversity conservation and sustainability should also be the business of the private sector. Tomorrow's Parallel Session 5 on ecotourism, business and biodiversity will provide insights on mainstreaming biodiversity by the private sector as we transcend business as usual by taking into account conservation and sustainability in our business models and operations. Parallel Session 5 will feature a keynote presentation on the role of the business sector in the region's whole of society approach to pandemic response, recovery and prevention, and in the development and implementation of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, which is anticipated to be adopted at the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity in Montreal, Canada, next month. Next slide, please. Thank you. The session will be graced by experts and distinguished speakers from the region who will deliver presentations that will highlight good practices in tourism management in AHPs and protected areas, successful efforts towards recovery from the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, and the crucial contribution of the private sector in the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity through sustainable tourism activities and developments. Thus, we are thrilled to invite you to take part in Parallel Session 5 tomorrow at Kijang Suite, first floor, Ibis Hotel, not this hotel, the other one, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon for meaningful and insightful discussions on ecotourism, business, and biodiversity. Through this half-day discussion, we hope that participants will be able to have a better understanding of the role of business in pandemic recovery and in the post-2020 GBF, and appreciate the investments of the private sector in protected areas. It will also provide a platform for sharing good management practices in tourism in AHPs and protected areas and explore opportunities and for partnerships with the private sector. Thank you, and we look forward to continuing this conversation with you tomorrow in our session. Terima kasih, and kita jumpa esok.
Terima kasih, and kita jumpa esok. Thank you very much, Mr. Syed Mohazri Syed Hazari from Malaysia. Now, last but not least, we are going to listen to the sixth presentation with the topic, the ASEAN Heritage Parks as Models for Nature-Based Solutions in the Region. That will be presented by Dr. Pham Van Nam, Ba Be National Park from Vietnam. So, Dr. Pham Van Nam, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to invite you to Parallel Session 6, AHP, as model for nature-based solution in the Asian region. As you know, nature-based solutions are becoming by worse and have been relevant more than ever. Nature-based solutions are action to protect sustainably manage and restore nature and modify ecosystem in ways that address social challenges effectively and adaptively to provide both human well-being and biodiversity benefits. It's a potential benefit that flow from healthy ecosystem and target major challenges like climate change, disaster reduction, food and water security, health, and critical to economic development. The ASEAN Heritage Park have strong potential as model for nature-based solution. The session will feature an overview of such action in the region. It will also discuss consideration for safeguard and opportunity for advancing nature-based solution in the AHP. We will share our own experience and highlight the difficult benefits that we can get by conserving nature. Finally, there will be discussion and sharing of ideas as we move forward on what are nature-based solution is that in the ASEAN and what it means for the ASEAN Heritage Park program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Dr. Pham Van Nam for your brief presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished excellencies, we have come to the end of the opening ceremony of 7 ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference. After the lunch break, the conference will start again with parallel session at 2 p.m. in a different rooms. And later tonight, we are going to have cultural night dinner that will be held at this room, at this ballroom. And dinner will be started at 6 p.m. onwards. So please be on time on 6 p.m. And another important information, we will also have field trip that will be held on 3rd of November 2022. And for those of you who wants to join the field trip, you may register yourself at registration desk at the front of this ballroom right after this session ends. And I would like to thank all of the participants. Thank you very much for your presence and kind attention. And of course, for your continued support. Stay safe and stay healthy. Please enjoy your lunch and see you again at the cultural dinner tonight. Thank you very much.